Atrial fibrillation, one of the more common chronic dysrhythmias that you will see in the field. Our objectives: understand the origin of atrial fibrillation in the cardiac conduction system. Recognize atrial fibrillation on an ECG monitor. Understand why there are no observable P waves in atrial fibrillation. Describe the clinical implications of atrial fibrillation, and compare and contrast the three different types of atrial fibrillation. So, some key points with atrial fibrillation. It will always be an irregular rhythm. You will always have an absence of P waves. There will not be any P waves. And you will have a fibrillating baseline. The fibrillation is due to multiple pacemakers trying to just create a wave of depolarization, but they can't occur. The ventricular response will vary based on what the AV node allows through. So this is one of the most common atrial dysrhythmias, and again, it presents with three definitive characteristics, notably absent P waves. P waves are replaced by F waves, so you've got a fibrillating baseline, and the ventricular response rate is totally irregular, or termed irregularly irregular. So this is an example here. So the textbook calls this F waves with a little f, but I don't want you to confuse this with the big F waves of the flutter waves. So we're always just going to call this a fibrillating wave or fibrillating baseline. Now, there's a couple of different classifications of atrial fibrillation. You've got paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, which is an acutely occurring atrial fibrillation, and it is short-lived, but it can occur frequently. Persistent AFib is a chronic form, but it could still be converted. And then you've got permanent AFib, which is what you see in a lot of people, older patients especially, and it's a chronic stable form that cannot be converted or spontaneously reverts back when it is converted. So in the atrial tissue, there could be many individual ectopic foci acting as pacemakers at the same time, but they don't have a very strong conduction. And most of these small islands of depolarization throughout the atria cancel each other out, so they don't create a wave of conduction or an axis. The depolarization wavelets create a small vector that shows up on the ECG as just minimal fibrillating baseline.
The heart is a four-chambered structure. The main pumping chambers are the ventricles, which rely on the atria to supply them with blood. Normal atrial contraction is smooth and organized and allows for the efficient delivery of blood to the ventricle. Compare this with the fibrillating atrium that quivers rather than contracts and is therefore unable to pump efficiently.
Fine atrial fibrillation means that there are many ectopic foci in the atria that are randomly and chaotically depolarizing. On the ECG, this is represented by fine fibrillatory waves. Coarse atrial fibrillation means that there's only a few ectopic foci in the atria, however, they are still depolarizing in a random chaotic fashion. When the number of ectopic foci vary, the fibrillatory waves alternate between coarse and fine. And again, you cannot get an atrial rate off of this. So when you're trying to go through your steps of rhythm interpretation, there's no way that you would get an atrial rate. There is no P wave and there is no PRI. So question, atrial fibrillation is always irregular, true or false? And the question is true. One of the hallmark signs of atrial fibrillation is going to be that it is irregularly irregular. The ventricular response, the AV node cannot respond to each ectopic atrial impulse on a 1-to-1 ratio. That would just be absolutely wild as far as how fast the ventricles would go. When multiple ectopic atrial impulses reach the AV node, they cancel each other out because they're met by the wall of refractory tissue. At random, one impulse traverses the refractory tissue and effectively depolarizes the distal portion of the AV node. So again, note the term here, at random, which gives you the irregularly irregular rhythm. Once through the AV node, the impulse is conducted through the rest of the electrical conduction system, as usual, leading to a normal QRS complex. Due to the randomness with which the ectopic atrial impulses traverse the AV node and enters the ventricular response is random as well. This is, again, why the atrial fibrillation rhythm will always be irregularly irregular. The state of autonomic nervous system greatly affects the conduction rate and irritability of the AV node. Sympathetic stimulation increases the ventricular response in atrial fibrillation, and parasympathetic stimulation decreases the ventricular response. And certain drugs can greatly affect conduction through the AV node and thus ventricular response. Examples of these types of drugs that could affect the ventricular response: amiodarone, digitalis, beta blockers, or even calcium channel blockers. And this also brings up controlled versus uncontrolled atrial fibrillation. The average ventricular response in the untreated patient is between 100 and 160 beats per minute. Uncontrolled or decompensated atrial fibrillation exists when the ventricular rate is at or above 100. We also call this atrial fibrillation with a rapid ventricular response. Controlled atrial fibrillation exists when the ventricular rate is less than 100 beats per minute. Digoxin effect. Digitalis is commonly used to control the rate of atrial fibrillation, but digitalis or digoxin has a very narrow therapeutic window, and it can have some adverse effects on the patient once it gets in higher levels. Dig toxicity is associated with a variety of arrhythmias, most notably focal atrial tachycardia with block and a variety of clinical signs and symptoms. Digitalis commonly causes a scooping or ladle-like appearance in the ST segment, which you will see here, and is usually well identified. The ST segment looks like the indentation made when you scoop out some ice cream from a carton. The ST segment also looks like a ladle. Whenever you see a scooped out segment on someone's atrial fibrillation, you should think of the digitalis effect, and this figure here kind of shows you what it's talking about. Atrial fibrillation. What are some things that could cause it? Atrial enlargement, especially left atrial enlargement. Age, very common in age. This mnemonic here, MAD rat PPP, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Or it may be idiopathic. So the mnemonic I just mentioned: myocardial infarction, atherosclerosis, certain drugs, mainly digoxin, rheumatic heart disease, alcoholic holiday heart, thyrotoxicosis, pulmonary emboli, pericarditis, and pneumonia. So looking at this rhythm here, we don't see that it's really fibrillating, but we do see the absence of verifiable P waves, and we see that it is irregularly irregular. We don't see just a fibrillating baseline, but my rate is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is 80. My rhythm is irregularly irregular. My P wave is absent. My PRI we can't get. And my QRS looks like it's within normal parameters. But because it's irregularly irregular, we have absent P wave, and it would be a fibrillating baseline. We have atrial fibrillation. Same thing here. You do see a little bit more of a fibrillating baseline. Now you do have some predominant T waves, but don't get these confused with P waves. You note that this is an irregularly irregular rhythm. Same thing here. In this case, though, you've actually got the scooping ladle effect of digitalis toxicity. So this would be atrial fibrillation with digitalis toxicity. This one a little bit more fibrillating on the baseline. Anything in this case that might resemble a P wave really is not a P wave. It's just a fibrillating baseline, and it's irregularly irregular. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now this is a rate of 110, so this is what we would call uncontrolled atrial fibrillation. So this one again is a rate of 110. Now you might be tempted to think that this is the scooping baseline, and it may very well be, but it's not very predominant. So we would just call this atrial fibrillation. Moving forward a couple, this one here has a rate of 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 180. So we would call this a atrial fibrillation. It's uncontrolled atrial fibrillation with a rapid ventricular response. And in this case, we would actually probably end up having to cardiovert this patient or either give them some amiodarone. So out of all the rhythms that we've talked about with the atrial arrhythmias, atrial fibrillation is probably going to be the one that has the most clinical significance if it is a new onset atrial fibrillation. Now, one thing that we need to absolutely remember with treating atrial fibrillation is that atrial fibrillation can lead to blood clots being transported around the body, especially stroke. Atrial fibrillation is correlated directly with stroke. So we want to be very careful when we're making that decision as to whether we want to convert it or not. So rapid or uncontrolled atrial fib treatment is to decrease the ventricular rate with medications if it's stable, or with cardioversion if the patient is unstable.